Alright, now let's talk about jazz chords. Now when you're playing contemporary gospel music, many times you make use of jazz flavored chords. Now what I want to do is explain to you the foundation of what we call jazz chords or extended chords. And it's all based on scales. And I always encourage my students to always practice on your scales, know your scales fluently in every key. It's so important to know all of your scales, in particular your major scales. But to just give you a good foundation on jazz chords, let's take the key of C and we'll play the C major scale. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, every note of the particular scale has a number or what you call a scale degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, the scale actually goes up all the way to the number 13, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And as we descend, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's very important to know all 12 major scales like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And all the way up and down the keyboard, playing all 12 keys. Now, it's three notes, or three numbers rather, that you want to really pay attention to when playing your major scales and playing them all the way up to the number 13. And that's the number. Let's go back to the key of C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The number 9, the number 11, and the number 13. And those three numbers are very important when it comes to playing jazz flavored chords. Okay, so again, that's the number 9. We're in the key of C right here. The number 9, the number 11, and the number 13. Okay, now an easy thing to help you remember, or help you to be able to find rather, the number 9, the number 11, and 13 is to think of it like this. The number 9 is the same note as the number 2. So remember, 2 and 9 is the same note. The number 11 is the same number, or the same note rather, as the number 4. So remember, 4 and 11 is the same note. And then the number 13 and the number 6 is the same note. Okay, so that will actually help you when you're trying to figure out where's number 9 in the key of C, or where is number 11 in the key of B flat, or where is number 13 in the key of G. It will actually help you to remember that 2 and 9 is the same thing, 4 and 11 is the same note, and 6 and 13 is the same note. So I encourage you to remember that. 2 and 9, 4 and 11, 6 and 13. Okay, now let's go a little further. Now, mainly, when you talk about jazz chords, many times they're built off of dominant 7 chords. Now, not all of the time, but many times it's built off of dominant 7 chords. And a little later, we'll talk about a few more other types of chords. But let's talk about the dominant 7 chord right now. Now, let's go back to the key of C. The dominant 7 chord is when you play the number 1, the number 3, the number 5, and the number flat 7. So in the key of C, C dominant 7 would be C, E, G, and B flat. Okay, now if I want to extend the chord, or in other words, play some of the higher numbers on top of this chord, in particular, dealing with the 9, the 11, and the 13, this is what it would sound like. Okay, that's the 9. This is the 11. and then the 13 is the A. Okay, now that's just playing it in its root form. Okay, now generally speaking, now this is a rule of thumb. When you're playing a dominant 7 chord and you want to add an 11 with that chord, generally speaking, the 11 is sharpened or raised. So in the key of C or the C dominant 7, instead of playing F natural, I'll actually play F sharp, and it would sound like this. And that's just a general rule of thumb that piano players and organists try to follow in the jazz idiom, or when you're playing jazz flavored chords, is when you're playing a dominant 7 chord and you want to include an 11, you normally would raise the 11 or sharpen it a half step. Okay, let's take it a step further. Also, this is just another rule of thumb. When you're playing a dominant 7 chord and it has a sharp 11 or a raised 11 in it, generally speaking, you leave the 5th of the chord out. So it would be more like this. Leave the 5 out. Like that. Now, it's not wrong to have the 5 in there, but it actually, in some instances, it gets in the way of the sound of the chord a little bit, unless you actually prefer that sound. So many piano players just simply leave the 5 out when they have a sharp 11 in their chord. Okay, it's not wrong to have it in there, and if you like the sound of it, it's okay. But just a rule of thumb, it generally gets in the way of the sound of the chord. Okay, let's take it a step further. Now, many times what you do is you alter certain numbers within the dominant 7 chord. And particularly you offer mainly 2 notes. That's the number 9. And then it brings us back to the number 5. Okay, you don't actually, many times you leave the 5 out, the natural 5 out, but you can alter it to be a flat 5 or a sharp 5. Or you can alter your 9 to be a flat 9, or you can alter your 9 to be a sharp 9. Okay, and when you alter the notes, it gives you a totally different sounding chord. Okay, let me give you some examples. Okay, I'm leaving the 5 out. I'm going to alter it on the higher part of the chord. Okay, here's my 9. Here's my sharp 11, and I'm going to play my sharp 5 up here. Okay, that's a very dissonant sounding chord. I'm going to play the root of my chord with my foot, which is C, and it'll sound like this all together. So this would be what you call C dominant 7, sharp 11, and then sharp 5. Okay, let's try another one. All right, I'm playing the C with my foot. This is the 3 of the chord, the flat 7. All right, let's try something different. Let's sharp the 9. D would be the 9. We're going to sharp it, and we're going to add a sharp 11, which is this F sharp, and then we're going to throw in the number 13, which would be the A, and it all together sounds like this. All right, let me give you another example. Now, this chord right here is very common within the gospel music. I'm playing C with my foot, still playing the E and the B flat with my left hand. I'm going to play now a sharp 11 and a sharp 5, okay? And I'm going to also throw in a sharp 9. so just using those simple concepts, you can come up with so many different variations of chords and so many different sounds that are contemporary, that are you don't hear them all the time, and it will really stand out and cause your music to be noticed. Now let's do a few more examples. This is C dominant 7, sharp 5, sharp 9. Okay, sharp 5. If I just count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would be sharp 5. If I count up 1, 2. And I actually can stop right there because 2 and 9 is the same thing if you remember. 1, 2, and I want to sharp that, it would be this. So this is my sharp 5, this is my sharp 9, and I'm playing the other notes of the chord with my left hand. I'm playing the root with my foot. Okay, this is very common. Okay, now let's try a different key. I'm going to give you an example of one of these type of chords and a particular chord progression. Alright, this chord right here. Now, the name of the chord is B flat, dominant 7, flat 9, 13. All right. Now, the first thing you must know the B flat major scale, which is B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, remember that 2 and 9 is the same thing, 4 and 11 is the same thing, and 6 and 13 is the same thing. So this is 1, this is 2. But it also is 9. So 2 and 9 is C. Alright, let's keep going. 3, 4. So that means 4 and 11 is E flat. As we keep going, 5, 6, 6 and 13 is G. And then we finish out the scale. Like that, okay? So this is my 2 and my 9. This is my 4 and my 11. And this is my 6 and my 13 in the key of B flat, okay? Now, and remember, B flat dominant 7 chord is comprised of the numbers 1, 3, 5, and flat 7. Like that, okay? Those are my notes to the dominant 7 chord. Now, what I'm going to do is invert my chord. I'm going to take the 5th out and play the root of the chord with my foot pedal. Okay? Alright, and it's going to look like this. Okay? My 5th is the F. And so I'm going to play this note with my pedal, leave the F out, which leaves me with D and A flat. And I'm going to play that down here and play the pedal with my foot. Gives me a nice round foundation. Okay, now I need to find my flat 9. So let's find where 9 is. 1, 2. 2 and 9 is the same thing. And if I want flat 9, I'll flatten this note, bring it down a half step to that right there. Alright, so we have that much so far. Now, this is my 3, just repeat it. And then my 13, remember 6 and 13 is the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I put that together, and it gives me that chord. Alright, so that's the logic behind many of the jazz chords you hear. And this is what I would encourage you to do if you really want to get deep into this, is to know all 12 major scales fluently. It's very important. And there are many musicians that can play the paint off of the keys, but they don't know their major scales fluently. And I mean knowing them like this, where you don't even have to play them, and you know what the numbers are and what notes go to the particular scales. For example, you should know in the key of B flat that 1 is B flat. that 5 is F, that 2 is C, that E flat is 4, that A is 7, that 6 is G. You should know your scales that well. In the key of E natural, you should know that A flat is 3. You should know that F sharp is 2. You should know that C sharp is 6. You should know that 5 is B. That's how well you need to know your major scales in all 12 keys. That's how well you need to know them. You need to know them even if you were not in front of a piano or organ, knowing every note of the scale. And when it's time to apply this understanding of jazz chords and the numbers, the 9, the sharp 11, the 13, then it'll things will go so much faster, so much smoother, and you'll understand what's going on a whole lot better. Okay, so I encourage you to work on your scales. I also encourage you to experiment with flat 5s and sharp 5s. Experiment with flat 9s and sharp 9s. And experiment with the sharp 11 and the 13 as extensions on top of your dominant 7 chords.